Love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. Matthew chapter 22 brings us to the heart of Jesus' teachings through parables, debates with religious leaders, and his proclamation of the Greatest Commandment. It's a chapter that challenges us to align our lives with God's priorities. Welcome to Gospel Unlocked. We're continuing our series on Matthew's Gospel, unlocking insights from each chapter. Let's turn the key and discover the truths in Matthew 22. Jesus begins the chapter with the parable of the wedding banquet. A king prepares a feast to celebrate his son's wedding, inviting many guests. However, those invited refuse to come, offering excuses or even mistreating the king's messengers. The king then invites others, both the good and the bad, filling the banquet hall. Yet, when the king notices a man without wedding clothes, he has him thrown out, saying, "For many are invited, but few are chosen." This parable illustrates the kingdom of heaven, where God's invitation is open to all, but entering requires a response, a transformation symbolized by the wedding clothes. It challenges us not only to accept God's invitation, but also to live lives that reflect His righteousness. The Pharisees and Herodians attempt to trap Jesus with a question. Is it right to pay the imperial tax to Caesar or not? Jesus, knowing their intent, asks for a coin and says, "Whose image is on this?" They reply, "Caesar's." Jesus then responds, "Give back to Caesar what is Caesar's, and to God what is God's." This answer amazes them and silences their trap. Jesus highlights the distinction between earthly and divine authority, calling us to fulfill our responsibilities in both realms. Jesus reminds us that while we live in the world, our ultimate allegiance belongs to God. The Sadducees, who don't believe in the resurrection, present a hypothetical scenario about a woman who marries 7 brothers in succession after each dies. They ask, at the resurrection, whose wife will she be? Jesus replies, "You are in error because you do not know the scriptures or the power of God. At the resurrection, people will neither marry nor be given in marriage. They will be like the angels in heaven." He then affirms the resurrection, saying, "Have you not read what God said to you? I am the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob." He is not the God of the dead, but of the living. This response silences the Sadducees and underscores the reality of eternal life. Jesus' teaching calls us to focus on the eternal and trust in God's power to fulfill His promises. The Pharisees test Jesus again, asking, "Teacher, which is the greatest commandment in the law?" Jesus replies, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. All the law and the prophets hang on these 2 commandments." This profound answer summarizes the essence of God's law, emphasizing love for God and love for others as the foundation of faithful living. Jesus invites each of us to center our lives on love, complete devotion to God, and selfless care for others. Finally, Jesus turns the tables, asking the Pharisees, "What do you think about the Messiah? Whose son is he?" They reply, "The son of David." Jesus counters by quoting Psalm 110, "The Lord said to my Lord, sit at my right hand until I put your enemies under your feet." He then asks, if David calls him Lord, how can he be his son? This question leaves them speechless, as it points to the divine nature of the Messiah, challenging their limited understanding. Jesus reveals that the Messiah is far more than they imagined. He is both David's descendant and David's Lord. Matthew chapter 22 is rich with wisdom, from the parable of the wedding banquet to the call to love God and others. Through his teachings, Jesus challenges us to embrace God's invitation, live lives of love, and recognize his ultimate authority as the Messiah. Thank you for joining me on Gospel Unlocked, and I look forward to unlocking more of Matthew's Gospel with you as we continue this journey together.